So prior to the March of Dimes committing itself to this effort, it was a pretty lonely place to do research because only 4% of the National Institutes of Health budget goes to support research for children, fetuses, mothers, and really women's health issues. 4% of the federal budget for health research. And less than 4% of that 4% went for prematurity-related research. So the leading cause of infant mortality in the United States, the leading cause of cerebral palsy, the leading cause of chronic lung disease in children, the leading cause of blindness in children, got less than 4% of 4%. So in fact, funding was almost negligible from a public health perspective. But through the March of Dimes direct efforts in generating funds for research, and I've been an incredibly grateful recipient of those funds, and in promoting this incredible problem that the country faces and has neglected for way too long, there is much more money being made available by the federal government. People are paying attention to it. Doctors are more aware in their offices of what a huge problem this is, thinking about it more often, and I think it's made a big difference. And I think that with sustained effort, I am absolutely confident we're going to lower our prematurity rate in this country.
Can you just talk one more time just about persistence in general, how important it is for research?
Yeah.
If I may, if you could tie that in, talking about your team,
Mm-hmm.
the persistence,
Uh-huh.
and that you need in general in this business, but
Right.
talk about your team because we've seen.
Right.
moments of that.
So my research group formed in around 1990. They've been basically working with me for the past 16 years. We've had a lot of new folks join us, but we've been toiling on this topic for a very long time, a very, very long time. And I think we've made a lot of progress, and I think that in terms of our understanding of some specific causes of prematurity, like those associated with placental abruption, we've made really the crucial, if I say immodestly, and I am being immodest, discoveries in that area. And I think they're going to translate fairly quickly into better methods of diagnosing and treating patients. But we still have another 16 years of work to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. So now, what do you need next?
Okay. Well, we have,
I'm sorry, let's do room tone. We do need a little room tone.
let's give us 30 seconds of silence for this. You would think we could do that without you, but we can't.
Why do I do it? Yeah, you know, I have said, I think, since I was probably in college, that if I didn't love coming in to work in the morning, I wouldn't do it. I would do something else. For example, sail. I enjoy doing that very much. I think that it's part taking care of patients. Still love doing that. Still do it. It's why I became a doctor. And there's no greater joy than sharing in somebody's delivery, and it's the most wonderful moment of their life. And you get to do that. It's like the guy that hands out the check in the lottery. Great job. That still excites me as much as it ever did. And although the hours can sometimes be long and the sleep very little, it's a great experience. The joy of discovery. When we make an observation that no one else has made, or we have a crazy hypothesis that we test that turns out to be correct, it's like having a baby. It really is, creating, and it's almost addicting. It's so exciting, and you can be there at 3:00 in the morning and be writing up the results and just be so excited and fresh and full of energy. It is really, I think, one of the great joys of being human.
Cool.
Don sleeping on the floor, probably.
But that
Yeah.
was on.
Right, right. Um, you know, he's first of all, he's a remarkable human being. He
I'm sorry, I meant for you to talk about the group as a whole.
not just him
Yeah,
in
because
particular.
It's really about.
Yeah, I mean, each one of them is remarkable, and each one of them has their own story that by itself could take us several hours to tell, and they're interesting stories. But they work together incredibly well. They're unbelievably selfless. If you ask somebody to do an extra job, to stay an extra few hours, to do a job maybe they're not as well trained in, and learn some new skill set, they do it immediately. They are genuinely good people, in the truest sense of the word, incredibly hardworking, very underpaid, and totally dedicated to what they're doing. It's an honor to lead them.
Okay. I think the last question I have, if you have time.
Yeah.
Is
American, the modern version of that, because it also involves a president. If polio started with, if the cure for polio started with President Roosevelt, you know, being infected by the virus in Campobello and heroically fighting it and really becoming a champion for research that resulted in a cure, then the story of prematurity research also starts with a president, and that's President John Kennedy, whose wife delivered very prematurely, and their child died of respiratory distress syndrome. And he was absolutely stunned that this could happen, and that there wasn't a way of preventing premature delivery or a better way of taking care of those babies. And it was a result almost precisely because of that he pushed not only the implementation and institution of the National Institutes of Health, but particularly the National Institutes of Child Health and Development. And that also led to the development of neonatal intensive care units, the first one being here at Yale, and to focused efforts at better treating premature babies. So our legacy, if you will, very much like polio, it starts with the president, and hopefully the time frame won't be quite as long, and we'll also have a cure.
okay. To your work.
I always hate doing that, and I always wonder just what impact it had. But my mother delivered a son at 36 weeks as a result of having a placenta previa and being and needing to be delivered emergently. And that little boy lived about 48 hours. And my mother still cries. This was in 1948. She still cries when she looks at the pictures of that little boy. All these years later. She's 95. Don't put that in. She'll kill me.
I guess we can cut before we get to that part.
Bad Rh disease. And so she had multiple stillbirths because of Rh disease. The only children that lived were the Rh negative ones, myself, my sister, and this little boy, lived to the point of being born. And being a good Italian woman, good Italian Catholic, she kept having baby after baby after baby. And she would tell me those stories growing up about, you know, these stillbirths and miscarriages and the premature delivery and I wonder how much that, you know, particularly when she's telling a little tiny kid, I wonder how much of that was sort of seared into my memory and helps drive who I became and the profession I chose and this passion in particular for prematurity. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Did she, I'm sure she's really proud of you, but does she talk about this in particular, the path you chose?
Yeah, I think my father was always sort of mystified by it. He was an engineer and before that a sea captain. I mean, he really had a different view of the world. I think she was much more intrigued by it and always loves, even today, to hear stories about the patients I've taken care of course, all carefully HIPAA protected, and the different adventures that I've had in making diagnoses and so forth. I recently had the wonderful opportunity to be the recipient of a Stump the Professor exercise at the annual meeting of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. This is about 3,000 people in the audience, and these residents try to stump you with these really, really tough cases. And fortunately, I nailed them all. And so they had a write-up in the ACOG newspaper, and sort of describing my exploits and how I came to the right diagnoses. And I brought that home for her, and she read it, and she just thought that was great. And she said, you always got your diagnostic skills from your mother. I don't know how she figured that out, but she took credit for them.
Okay.
Oh, I just love listening.
Yeah.
What's the best job in the world?
Oh, I think mine's the best job in the world. I'm sure everybody says that, but I really do mean it. I have stacks. I have files of letters from patients and babies and pictures of babies. People still send me. Even a couple of weeks ago, I got a big white envelope with this picture of a kid who was a hockey player at University of Michigan, and it was from the mother saying, I'd had all these premature deliveries and none of the babies lived, and you took care of me during this pregnancy, and this is the result. And how could you want a better job than that? It really is a great job. It really is. Wouldn't change it.